oh, we made it. We didn't fucking crash. Oh,
She's just not shocked at all at the fact
well,
that
she's
she
like,
did not
she's
switch seats.
she's not even saying. Well, she did say thank you to Mr. Bean, like eventually, but she's like, oh my, but that's it, man. But she was just like, oh my god, we made it. We didn't die. Hello and welcome to the AM Filmmaking Podcast. This is episode 1 and I'm joined here with Pranav and Abs. How are you doing both?
Very well, how are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. How about Abs?
Yes, Adam Maidment, bro. I'm very well, thank you. I was going to ask how you're doing, but Pranav took that question anyway, so good to be here.
It's a first for anything doing one of these things, so it's good for you guys to join in. Very excited. So basically, we're going to be breaking the main chunk of this podcast. We're going to be breaking down Mr. Bean's Holiday, which is a 2007 comedy film. One of my family classics. I'm sure everyone else whoever's a millennial who was brought up in that time, definitely a feel-good kind of film. But before we get into that, let's do a little introduction. Let's start with Abs. Go on, tell us a bit about yourself, mate.
Hi guys, my name's Abs, as it was quite evident as before. I'm a 21-year-old living in the UK, enjoying the sweet life. Did photography at uni, so graduated just last year. I do mainly landscapes, wildlife photography, but I do enjoy doing a bit of documentary and that. Known Adam for quite some time. I've had the unfortunate pleasure of knowing him for I think it's nearly 6 years now. He's done my absolute head in since I've known him.
I have been a nightmare, to be fair.
Mate, don't even get me started. Furthermore, we've been on quite a few adventures together regarding photography, videography, and this is the newest venture in the lineup. So it's always great to be here, and I'm a gamer as well. So just throwing that in there, gaming nerd.
Oh, amazing, man. How about you, Pranav? How are you doing? Tell us a little bit.
Yes. It is I, Pranav, also known as Planav, also known as Pravnav, and in some situations known as Prengu. So that's a story for a different time. But I've known you lot since sixth form, I believe, and been mates since. Working as a finance analyst at the moment. Don't know how I've ended up there.
Hello.
But here we are.
Yeah.
And free time, you'll hear me blasting away on my ukulele or piano and jamming on some tunes.
Yeah.
Or gaming away,
Yeah.
Chatting shit mostly in most scenarios. But
that's about how we get through life, mate.
In most scenarios, I think that's all scenarios. If kid me wrong, Pranav.
We'll see about that.
It's a bit of a bleak time, at this time, especially with coronavirus pretty much taking over everyone's lives. It's pretty shit. And it's one of the reasons why I've really wanted to start one of these podcasts, because even though we are so far apart and we can't even go on like good nights out, this is like a perfect time to kind of to do these kind of things where we connect with people. It is all about connecting with people at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. And people get to listen to our beautiful and lovely voices.
Especially considering the times where everyone else is bored, so it's going to be a nice little refreshing up for them as well.
Yeah, I think. Well, hopefully people won't be bored by this podcast, but that's the main thing, So,
yeah, we'll time.
But we'll go back to Abs. So you obviously mentioned what you do, but which films, like for you, like I know you're into your photography and everything, but like what films for you like stand out?
If we're just talking about films in general, if we're looking at it visually, aesthetically, what sort of caught my eye the most, movies such as The Revenant, that completely shot in natural light hours in Alaska in the middle of winter. Obviously recalling our trip to Iceland. we saw how little light there is and how hard it is to actually work with, the environment. So props to that film for everything, that it accomplished. And another one would be probably The Hateful Eight. Cinematography wise, for me, it just sound. I don't know what it is about that movie, but it being shot on film in Tarantino's typically, brash style, it just stood out. The aesthetics were always there. You can find, the rustic look of the movie was almost glamorized by the use of film. So I thought that was a great bonus. Probably Dunkirk, just throw it in there, just because that was one hell of a movie.
Solid one.
Oh yeah,
That's solid.
No, many great directors, especially Christopher Nolan, definitely a massive inspiration for me. I think when he did films such as like Interstellar, like especially like that kind of film where it was filmed on he tends to keep to his filmed cameras, like each kind of shot or each kind of take that's about 30 to 50 quid in itself, just a film. And I think he's a massive inspiration after he did the Dark Knight trilogy as well. And with The Hateful Eight, of course, Quentin Tarantino, legend, masterpiece of writing and directing. I think those two films, especially like in the modern era, they really do picturate like kind of really great films to watch. Not necessarily, for the easy laughs or the easy kind of, because you got to really concentrate in these films,
You really do, actually, yeah. Solid point there.
But like since obviously it's in April, we're going to be doing comedy this month. Even though a lot of people have pranked because of how gullible I am, I have been pranked a lot of times when it was April the 1st, including my girlfriend. So, shout to Natasha for pranking me on that. Big up Natasha. She'll enjoy me for shouting her out, to be honest. So Pranav, like for yourself, like you're really, I know you just like films or love films as such, as well. Like what for you stands out?
Yes, I'm the type of guy just taking life one day at a time, just enjoying myself. You did steal my movie out of my mouth. I was gonna say Interstellar. I bloody love that movie. I could rewatch it every other day if I wanted to. And being the sound guy like I am, Hans Zimmer, just hands off to that guy. Pun intended.
Yeah. Nah, Hans Zimmer is sick though. Like
exactly.
That, especially Interstellar. But I think, I don't know, there's just lots of Hans Zimmer tracks that
he really drives your emotions with that music, especially in The Dark Knight or Inception and Interstellar. So that's the sort of movie you'll see me voice crack. You'll see me watching because those mind-blowing films along with the soundtrack really just get me going. So I'd say, like, sticking to the Leonardo DiCaprio theme, I'd say Shutter Island. That was a great movie. And an ending that would just leave you just confused at first and then be like, whoa. So movies like that I love. And then the action side of things, John Wick, the 3 movies that are out so far.
I mean, I'll give you the first movie, but maybe not. The third one was actually better than the second one. I mean, the first one definitely a revival of Keanu Reeves, 100% from, like he's been, well, I don't know if he's been absent, but he hasn't done many famous films up until that point. But that film especially, like that is the pinnacle of action thriller revenge movie. That basically ticks all the boxes. Not necessarily like I said, the second and third are just a bit like kind of, oh, this film's done really well. Let's make another one and another one,
See, but the thing with the John Wick movies is I don't think I ever got bored because I watched the first 2 in one day.
Well, you can't get bored because people are dying left, right, and center.
It's that mindless slaughter. The thing is, don't get me wrong, the story is there, but there's just so much mindless slaughter going on. You're just like, oh, here we go again. It's that meme. Ah, shit. Here we go again.
Literally,
It's
copyright that.
literally that.
But like to be fair, the Russians did kill his bloody dog.
Exactly.
So
You can't be killing
if
a dog.
if I had a dog,
Kill my dog. You've got death coming to you.
mate. Yeah, exactly, and that's why it made it such a good revenge movie. But we're not talking about that today. So today we're gonna kind of do a bit of a light-hearted approach. Just getting my notes back up. And like I said, we're going to be doing Mr. Bean's Holiday. So it's like I said, a 2007 film. It was actually written by Rowan Atkinson, directed by Steve Bendelak. He's done a lot of stuff. Not only he's done a lot, mainly TV shows, but most famously for Little Britain. He's directed a few from there, which, that's what he's most famous for, I'd say. But yeah, it is mainly about Rowan Atkinson. I mean, it's pretty much his sending off to Mr. Bean until another time. So the synopsis is he takes a trip to Cannes, which is in the south of France, where he unwittingly separates a young boy from his father. And it's about a story how to try and reunite them, but in a crazy, disastrous way.
And before we begin, can I just say, Rowan Atkinson, he's one of those actors that I've just seen since I was a kid. And him, Jackie Chan, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and all of these actors
did you just say...
I did not.
You just said the bad one. You said the bad one.
We'll bleep that. But these actors, I just want to hold them close to my heart, man. They're getting older, and it's just so sad to see. And obviously, this was the last Mr. Bean movie. He did do stuff in the Olympics after this, and some other little bits and bobs, but you don't get to see Mr. Bean like you used to, obviously, because of his age. So I would love another final Mr. Bean movie, maybe a final send-off, but I reckon they'd make it too emotional.
Yeah, it would be a hard one to sort of sit through, knowing at the end of it that he's going to say goodbye to the role forever. And the worst thing about it is that that there's no one there that could ever fill the shoe that Mr. Bean, or rather, Mr. Bean, the character, and Rowan Atkinson have had an impact on.
Yeah, he's like the Charlie Chaplin of our generation.
Yeah, exactly. Because the thing is, you'd see what he would do, and then as a result, you'd copy some of the stuff he would do when you were younger, if you know what I mean. He's had that sort of early life role model to certain extents, if you could say that.
And I think, like you said, Rowan Atkinson, for me as well, I have to agree, he's been a massive inspiration. But like he's kept himself busy, he's still doing the Johnny English films. I think he may have finished it now. He's done 3 Johnny English films now. He
did. Sorry to cut in there, but I've seen the third one. Now, unfortunately, it didn't match up anywhere near towards the first or the second, unfortunately. And that was sad to see, because Johnny English, again, another nice little character, really. But, it's sad to see a movie that you grew up watching again sort of turn into cinder before your eyes.
Yeah, that's usually the case when they milk it for the third time, though, or maybe the fourth.
Yeah.
So it starts to lose its power there. Like with Mr. Bean, I think it's a great decision that he made that it would be the final one, because there's only so many jokes that he can get through. He did a whole bloody cartoon on it and a whole show on it. So taking it to the movies after that, there's only so much comedy you can get out until you're milking it.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I totally understand. I mean, there were great moments, and this is the difficulty with comedy. Comedy is actually one of the hardest ones to write, because there is so many jokes you can put in there to the point where you lose the audience's attention, and that in a way that can sometimes be a problem, especially with the Mr. Bean movies, or even Johnny English movies, or any comedy movies, is because you just get tired of the same kind of repetitiveness. And that's why comedies sometimes tend to be not that long, because of how long it is. Like I've never seen a comedy more than 2 hours long. They usually last an hour and a half to an hour and 45 max.
They are very hard to lengthen out. There's only so much you can do when in this instance with Mr. Bean's Holiday, it's not based around dialogue. It's based around the physical jokes, the practical jokes, and everything that we see Mr. Bean get up to, from his facial expressions to the sort of antics to try and do right, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. But let's get straight into the breakdown. So I called it the MGM breakdown. So there's movie, genre, Mondays. So this should take up most of the chunk of the podcast. But overall opinions from watching it again, for me, like I find it a nice like relief. But in some cases, I didn't want to spoil the movie to anyone who hasn't seen it yet, or anyone new to watching Mr. Bean or whatever. But I find again, like, yes, there was some brilliant moments, but there was some moments where I just felt, maybe if the story was a bit better, or if there was a little more logic.
It drags on in some of the scenes, and with that, it's like with the switch up off that, it's difficult for them to go from scene to scene. They're doing comedy in one scene, a saddish scene, and then go into comedy again, which
they're jumping a bit too much in that instance, isn't it?
Yeah. But like, it is meant to be a feel-good family comedy. That it is stated in the movie that it is, for little kids as such. Like there are some scenes where it's needed for parental guidance as such, but it is meant to be one of those kind of sit around with the family and have a good laugh. But when go on.
Yes, sir. No. I'll let you finish. I'll cut the thought.
I've actually lost my train of thought, to be honest.
That's fine. But I was gonna say that it's become one of those movies over time where it's become kind of like a background movie where it's just playing. You see some scenes and you're like, that's funny, and then you just carry on doing what you're doing whilst it's just playing in the background. So you're not giving it your full attention. So when you're rewatching it, to take notes, obviously, or understand the depth of it, you do sit there being like, I'm not fully focused on this movie.
When we first watched it, it was 2007. So we were both, all of us, we were all very young. So when we watched it then, it was like, right, this is a movie. You're paying attention to all the big bits, the small bits. You're sort of zooming past, if you know what I mean. You're not taking it in. But when you have to go back over it and look over it and understand the sort of significance of the scene, is a bit more different. Going back over and watching the movie after God knows how many years, because I can't remember the last time I ever watched it. Just because it's not one of those films you sort of go out of your way to watch. It's sort of a one-time watch, the occasional watch with the family, and then you don't really go back to it too often, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You don't sort of wake up in the morning and go, I'm going to go watch Mr. Bean's Holiday. It's not one of those kind of films, sadly.
You watch it to get I think you get your spirits back up. Especially when it's a cold, miserable day as such, you would want to watch one of those films. Whenever it is like that, I always choose one that's necessarily an easier watch. Like I would, if this was on the desk, I would definitely pick it up and watch it. But the problem is, I need to be around people to have a laugh with, because the weird thing is, because I watched this pretty much on my own. It's not as funny, when you're around, there's a difference when you're around people that that care and support for you, like, because then you share opinions and like, people find it funnier when someone else laughs,
exactly,
rather than yourself laughing.
Laughter is contagious, so people laughing around you makes the movie funnier for you.
It makes it, the reaction is better that way.
Yeah.
Because when you're with mates or when you're with family, you tend to relate what you see to the people around you. So you see him mucking about or making a fool of himself or whatever, you tend to sort of go, oh look, that's you. You turn around, that sort of year 7 mentality, no matter what age you are, you go, that's you. Look at him falling over. That's you in a nightclub.
Yep.
That's exactly the way you tend to relate these things, and that's why watching it with people is 110 times funnier than it is sometimes when you're watching it by yourself.
Yeah, 100%. And like what Pranav said, laughter is contagious, but please don't go and get coronavirus and don't invite your friends from it.
Yep. Stay
So
at
I'm going to
home,
mention
wash
that.
your hands.
Yes, stay. Yeah, literally.
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands
wear
whilst
gloves,
watching it if you want.
wear masks.
Yeah, do everything. Jesus, man. That word is banned for next year, 100%.
Coronavirus.
If anyone mentions it,
Coronavirus.
Jeez. Right, let's dive in a bit then. Let's do a bit spoilers here and then. I think we touched a bit base around it a nice bit of time. So I wrote in my view, like, in one thing that really like stood out for me was 100% the physical comedy, persuaded not just by Rowan Atkinson, but there was a lot of other characters that made it funnier, and I like to split each scene into almost like sketches.
Yeah.
Like, but the one thing I just found the most funniest, and well, that's not even English, but it's, there's just certain moments that makes a character trait. For example, when he starts going on the Eurostar, and when he gets his coffee, he says "gracias," for example.
Yep.
And then he repeats that when he's dresses up as a bloody grandma going to the Cannes Film Festival, and then he's like, "Bonjour, madame," and he's like, "Gracias."
Gracias.
Like,
And
he
that
has.
sort of
I
weird
love the fact they took the fact that Mr. Bean doesn't talk very well, not just in English, but God, if it's anything to do with their foreign language, they milk that pretty much, which I love that.
Exactly, the facial acting by Rowan Atkinson. I'm gonna keep messing up on that word. By Mr. Bean. I think everyone in the world just refers to him as Mr. Bean.
Mr. Bean.
So the facial acting by Mr. Bean, the noises and the groans that he makes, just really drive the movie. So you don't need words to understand what he's trying to say or what his feelings are in a situation. He just makes a noise, and you're like, oh, okay, that's how he's feeling. And no other actor could pull off. Well, there's probably some that could, but I don't think anyone could do it like Mr. Bean.
The way he does it.
Exactly.
I think it's a fact. Like, someone even quoted when I did do a bit of research to say, because of his like even when he was, because like if you see like Rowan Atkinson's interviews, he's very kind of a very posh kind of civilized guy, isn't it? But like, if you didn't know him as a person, you go, who is this ugly mug or whatever? You get what I mean? Like, and this is the thing, it's 100% his facial expressions tell the whole story. That restaurant scene when he is with the maitre d', who's played by Jean Rochefort, by the way. He's quite a famous actor. He was going to be in Terry Gilliam's It's Coming to Me. It's Coming to Me. No, it's gone. It's gone.
Is it? Oh.
I've lost in La Mancha, but sadly he has passed away, unfortunately. But like, anyway, I think the whole restaurant sketch was amazing. Like, if you took facial expressions, when he's taking a shot of the oyster, and he's like, oh yeah, I really like this, but really he's putting it in his bloody lap, and then he's moving to the next thing. Right, how am I going to get rid of this? Oh, there's a handbag right there. That's so convenient.
It's ingenuity of the dumbest kind, if you know what I mean. If I what I'll do is I'll refer to my quotes and rather my notes right here. We're reminded of Mr. Bean's. He's an imaginative character and a man in itself with unimaginably stupid luck, because you've never seen someone pull off any of the things he does and get away with it the way he does, if you know what I mean. You see the man is, he's consistently thinking of new ways to sort of subvert the expectation of the audience, sort of how to get out of a situation in the most, mundane or crazy bonkers way ever. And going back to what you said, Pranav, regarding Atkinson's ability to use his face and sounds, there's that scene on the platform after he misses his second train, after he gets off and realizes that his bag and everything is inside the train. It's the stomping around, the childishness, it's the sort of immaturity of the character that we relate to. You know, we sort of our inner child goes, yeah, that's what I want to do. I do that.
Yeah, and he
Anytime I get
completely
frustrated,
shows off his skill in the scene in the marketplace. I think that's a memorable scene for everyone, where him and the kid are singing and dancing to collect the money. And
Oh yeah,
Well, he
that
busts
scene
as a mime, yeah.
goes on.
that is fantastic. That scene.
Exactly. That scene
Fantastic.
goes on for a while, and you just can't get enough of that scene.
Do you know what the weird thing is? Like, I'm gonna go back to kind of the childish stomping, because again, this goes back to my research. But the thing is, even though this is a made up character, the reason why we find this funny is because we're laughing at him. Yeah, we're not like with some comedies, you laugh sometimes with the character as such, but like with this Mr. Bean character as such, like he could have a possible disorder, man. Like if I saw this guy in real life, like I'd say, Jesus, he's probably got like some personality disorder. But because, you know, he's showing like those inner thoughts as such, like at what Ab said, like it's definitely those inner feelings that you want to get out and show to the world. And I think there is definitely an emotional style to it, and that's what brings up the physical comedy to its highest level. You know.
Yeah, and you realize that even though he's making those mistakes or peeing a lot of people off in those situations, his heart is always in the right place. So that's what lets you connect with that character. And I think that's been the story with Mr. Bean for a whole time here. It almost kind of reminds me of the boss from The Office, whose name I'm completely forgot. Michael Scott. There we go. Reminds me of him. He would find himself in really awkward situations, but you know that he's not wanting to be in those situations. He's just found himself there. But then there's always a heartwarming conclusion to that situation.
You know what it is with Mr. Bean? It's the innocence that you relate to, because, as you said, he doesn't intend for these things to happen. He just ends up in them. You know, it's that dumb luck, you know, that we were talking about earlier. I think it's he's oblivious sometimes, not out of he's not purposefully oblivious. He just happens to be oblivious in that situation, and therefore you kind of have a bit of sympathy towards his character, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You sort of go, oh well, that's just unfortunate, because as much as lucky as he is with the way he does things, he's equally unlucky because he always sort of happens to draw the short straw. You know, he just ends up in the wrong situation, wrong time, and then just ends up with the smaller straw in, you know, or bad hands, so to speak.
Yeah, and you always feel like you're rooting for the character, but also because you're watching a movie about him, you want to see him mess up in another new way. But at the end of the day, you want to see how he gets out of that situation as well.
And it's just brilliant. I think he is just brilliant. I mean, going off from the characters or the actors themselves, I like, in my personal opinion, I think weirdly this is quite a cinematic film. You know, like, and I think there is a contrast, like people are forgetting. You know, the beginning of the film, you're given this again. This is the reason why you want to pick a Mr. Bean's holiday, is because we start with this cold, damp London, England in June time. You know, we have to go indoors. You know, there's water leaking everywhere, and then it's a very cold atmosphere, I feel. But then all of a sudden we're then given this beautiful like scenarios of, you know, we go straight into this kind of warm, ambient kind of like atmosphere. It's, you know, it's just like it just shows it is a good family choice because people want to feel warmed and loved from this film.
And the sunny France just makes you want to be outdoors, even though we can't be right now. Stay indoors, kids. You want to be
Mate, I know.
where the movie
I want to be
is.
outside right now.
Exactly. Just watching that movie made me feel like I want to be outside. Maybe I want to book a trip to Paris and go there.
You know what? I actually went to France last year because of the film. Like, this is the weird thing. My dream has always been to go to Cannes because of this film. it's a weird feeling. But you were saying, go for it.
It is, and even in like his eyes, every time you see him picture cans, you hear that orchestral choir music just going through his mind there, and he just imagines it being this amazing place. And I think moving on to the next thing, I'd say the music in this movie is just great. From the beginning till the end, the music keeps you in the scenes. It's kind of it goes along with the dialogue in a way because it slows down when you need it to. So when he misses the train or when the kid's upset, it slows down to give you a chance to hear the character noises or the communication, and then it picks back up again when he's in a hurry or he's in a situation where he needs to get out of there quick or he's on the run. So I think
soundtrack is definitely it's a big positive to the film because the soundtrack is one of the main reasons why this film was so great because again, you know, that lack of dialogue at times as well is made up by, again, the physical comedy and also what you hear, the sort of non-diegetic sound, the orchestral music, the sort of classic Charlie Chaplin-esque, you know, background music, all these little bits here and there that they've melded so well together. I think it's just such a massive positive for the film, and the way they have it in line with everything, as you said, Pranav, the way they sort of have it in tune with what we see on the screen is almost uncanny, can you say?
Exactly, and the great example of that would be when they're on the car journey, going to their destination, and you can hear it pick up because they're excited, and then you can hear it slow down when you realize it's just Mr. Bean playing it on his phone, and then it gets slower until it literally plays a sleepy music that makes people fall asleep. So I think it puts the music in the situation itself. It's not just a background thing.
Yeah, it was chosen and composed by Howard Goodall. And he's actually worked with Rowan Atkinson, not only just in Mr. Bean movies and the 1990 Bean movie, but like the TV series and even in Johnny English throughout. But like, I think as well, not like just the composed tracks, like especially, you know, like one that stands out for me is the kind of the I think it is a guitar, but I'm not sure what it is. But when he's walking towards the station and he's not stopping for anyone, you know, that little guitar riff where it's like, you know, he's going on this journey, but it's just like a kind of it's going to be a disastrous journey, as such. Where like
he's so nonchalant about it though as well, isn't it?
Yeah, but
he's really nonchalant.
Yeah, and like how sure he is, and the music kind of like definitely tells that. But I think a music choice in terms of picking one was definitely when he's then chasing the bus ticket to get off the bloody chicken. Like I always get frustrated by that scene, but whenever I hear oh god, what's the song? You know, it's "Here You Come, Way Too Fast." That song, like that, always picks you up because then it gives not only the character motivation to go and try and get that ticket, but it gives the audience a bit like, "Come on, yes, this is feel good. You can do it." As such, definitely picks it up, but it is a great sound choice. But the problem is, I do watching again. I think sometimes there can be like this. I like to do these reviews as a shit sandwich. So you start as a positive, you put basically the shit or the negatives in the middle, and then
you talk about
you end on a positive.
Now,
yeah,
now's a good time.
Absolutely, because I do find with this film, like I don't know if you guys can agree, but there are definitely some plot holes that I just think. Like in a real, like I know it's not. Yeah, I know it's not a logical or realistic film, but there is some. There should be some logic.
There is a complete lack of logic in some scenes.
The thing is the movie is based on not using any form of logic, if you know what I mean. It's solely based around the illogical perchance of this happening. And for us, because we're all logical beings, we tend to sort of want to logicalize all these situations. You're like, is that really possible? Can you, right at the, Adam, am I allowed to give spoilers?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but yeah, go for
Yeah.
it. Go
I think
for
it's a
it.
movie from
'Cause
2007,
what-
first of all. If you haven't seen Mr.
Yeah, I
Bean
know.
Holiday,
I know.
come on now.
Well,
Get
people
on it.
probably living under a rock. But go on, give a
Go on.
reason.
But the right at the end, how everything lined up so perfectly for him to walk down nonchalantly straight down towards, that scene. It was sort of like, as a child, I was like, oh my god, that was amazing. I look back at it now, I'm like, come on, be a bit more realistic. Come on.
See, I found that to be an amazing scene, to be honest. I had that as one of my positives, I'm not going to lie. I think just seeing him see the beach and doing what he did at the start of the movie, where he's just walking through France there on his phone at the
Everything.
start. He just walks through everything, and that's exactly what he did when he saw his destination. He starts walking, the place is basically building around him, all the cars are parking, so he doesn't even trip over anything, and he walks straight to the beach. And even at the beach, he's still in his bloody suit. I think that scene there just really reminds you of what Mr. Bean is. It is just a silly, completely illogical movie, but it just makes you feel so good. It leaves you satisfied with what you're seeing. You're not upset with what you're seeing, but complete back to lack of logic, I'd say, when he leaves the dad behind at the start of the movie when the train doors close. I think that scene was
No, yeah, but that scene always bloody frustrates me.
Exactly.
Do you know why?
It really does.
There's why what that it's like, I'm not being funny. The dad could have easily, I don't know.
There's a lot of things that
Mr.
he could have done.
He could have just like hit the emergency alarm. Why did not a single customer just pull the emergency alarm? But another logic, like, there's so many, like, for example, when the boy is calling all those different people for all those different numbers, all the boy did was hello, and then just waiting for hello, and then he goes, no, I'm not really interested, because I just want my dad.
Exactly.
Can the boy not speak? Can the boy not just go, hi, is my dad there? Hello?
He literally answered the phone with Papa.
Yeah, just
what's the
Papa.
worst thing?
It bloody frustrates me. Like, just say, Papa, are you there? Like Emil, I think his character's name's Emil. Just say it, and then bloody fucking, like, then they call the number. I'm gonna rage now because they call the number, and then the fucking housewife then picks it up, and then Emil's like, oh no, the housewife's got it. I'm just gonna leave it to her because it might not be my bloody son. Like, fucking.
And then he's proper worried with his wife right behind him. Like, he's like, oh, I need my son back. And then the moment the phone rings, he's like, oh yes, we'll let the maid answer it. Why on earth is the maid answering the phone?
Even there, though, I thought if the maid would hear a kid on the phone as the first thing he's saying is Papa, you'd think she'd
sort of turn around and hand it to the man right there, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But the kid didn't speak up. The kid was just like, I'm kind of getting annoyed at this, because the kid was just like, Papa, and then the woman's just like, hello, no, hang on, hello, and the woman's like, and he's like, no, it can't be my papa. My papa always like answers my phone. Like, come on, like, it's logic like that. And another scene that frustrates me, like, in terms of not logic, but it's a plot hole, is, for example, so Sabina, she on her tired ass, she just sleeps, she sleeps on the car, we all know that scene. And then Mr. Bean has to take over. Cool, Mr. Bean does a maneuver or whatever, but this bitch, okay, I'll call her a bitch, because the problem is, we get so Mr. Bean, like, he finds a solution, he keeps his eyes open. But this bitch, we cut straight to the morning, and then she opens her eyes. She goes, "Oh, we made it. We didn't fucking crash." Oh,
she's just not shocked at all at the fact that she did not switch seats.
She's not even saying. Well, she did say thank you to Mr. Bean, like, eventually, but she's like,
give him a quick kiss on the cheek.
Yeah, no, but that's it, man. But she was just like, "Oh my god, we made it. We didn't die. We didn't fucking, it's just it's plot holes like that where I just think, like, come on. You wouldn't have just said, "Oh, we made it. Wow, it's like a dream come true." Like, you would have said, "How did we make it?"
And there's a lot of
then
these
you look at
scenes,
Mr.
you almost feel like the comedy's being forced there. Like, for me, one scene that was triggering me a little bit is when he's stuck in that little shed on the side of the road. With the cars going past. And I think what really annoyed me about that scene was when he lifted the thing, and instead of just tipping it over and walking out of it, he takes it to the road where he gets hit by a truck and then survives it. Which, when we talk about lack of logic, there is none. Because
That prime
in what
example.
situation would a truck hit you in a little shed thing and you'd survive completely fine?
You sort of walk it off like, yeah, it's fine, mate.
Yeah.
Another day, just another day, another dollar type thing, isn't
And
it?
that scene would have made more sense. I don't know. Say he pushed it onto the road and it fell, and then the truck hit it. Where I would have been like, okay, he didn't physically take it to the road to get hit by a truck. Because if you're already lifting it, just tip it over and walk out of it.
Like, I can understand it, but that scene, like, yeah, it does frustrate a lot of people. But again, the pun is basically, this guy is fucking invincible, man. Like, this guy, and again, it is logic out the window, but it's just like, I don't know what it is, because that's there intentionally, which it can frustrate a lot of people, you know. But it's just moments
It
where you
definitely
feel.
us.
It's moments where you feel you could have changed, you know. Any from the boy just saying a fucking couple more words to the woman actually showing a little bit more appreciation, a bit more shock, like, shit, we didn't die, or we didn't like pull over or whatever, you know. It's just,
You know, there's that sort of scene where the boy's sort of begging for money, and it's like, you're talking all this right now, but why weren't you talking all of this sort of while you're on the blood clot phone?
Blood clot phone. My next point, actually, and one of my negatives would be the pace of the movie and some of the transitions. I think a lot of the scenes drag on for a lot longer than they need to. I think, like you mentioned, the whole chicken chase thing when he loses his ticket, that is quite a frustrating thing.
Who chases a chicken that far? Like, I was so annoyed in that scene.
And there's
I
no
was like,
conclusion to that scene because he ends up realizing that it's in a chicken farm or whatever that thing was. But it just
yeah,
goes
but
on
that
for
is the
so long.
conclusion to say, yeah, but that's the point. He does all that effort, and at the end of the day, there was no solution. Instead, that was the character's lowest point. You know, he was on his own. His bike was destroyed by a tank. You know, like that, but that was actually quite funny.
Yeah.
You know, that was like hilarious. You know, but like, it was kind of the lowest point of the movie, I felt, in my opinion.
Yeah, because you've gone from
Despite
like a
him,
hilarious scene where they've done this little show in the marketplace, and then they're getting on the bus. You're like, okay, we're gonna move on to the next thing. But then the ticket flies. You're like, oh, great. Now we need to see this thing. It made me feel a little bit like it was filler, but then obviously, like you said, the music picks up again. He's on the bike. That scene then improves it again, and then the shed scene kind of kills it for me again.
yeah, and it goes back to, you know, this is why comedy films sometimes feel like they can go on forever, and that's why they're quite short, because I written down that sometimes the comedy felt like it weared out, and then the really good scenes, you know, for example, I thought the scene when, you know, he made up his VIP card and then the security guard comes and checks and he fucking doodled it as such, you know, I thought that scene was hilarious, you know. And the shameful thing is the things that were forced, you know, anything from the shed and kind of that chase scene as such, it kind of, it does wear it thin, unfortunately, you know. But anyway, so like, after we discussed this quite a lot in detail, to be fair, so if we could just like summarize like this film in like 3 words, like what like, any of you, like what words would you give it?
I would go for comedically chaotic fun. There you go.
CCF. I love that.
Yep.
I love that.
Cheeky one of those, because yeah, it's a movie. There's a lot of comedy that you love because you've seen that comedy since you've grown up. I'm sure everyone has, and like I mentioned before, if you don't know about voice crack again, if you don't know about Mr. Bean, you've been living under a rock. Pick up your Netflix or whatever it is, Amazon Prime, and just get on it. You've missed out on
worst
your
thing is it's not
childhood.
even on there. It's not even on there. You have to pay for it.
Use whatever forms, non-dodgy
you could have
forms you need to.
Yeah, we don't advertise piracy
That's what they said,
or
non-dodgy
encourage
forms.
it. Non-dodgy forms, yeah. But honestly,
All valid forms.
Yeah. And yeah, it's a
That- that-
chaotic movie. Everything's all over the place in some scenes, but you're having fun. You're watching this with your family. There's not a lot of comedy movies you can just sit down and watch with your family. There's always that awkwardness. There was a movie that I was watching where a character talks about wanking in the comedy scene, and I'm watching that with my family, and it's awkward because because all four of you sitting
Yeah.
there know what they're talking about, but you
Yeah.
you can't talk about it. Movie like this, Mr. Bean, you can watch through the whole movie, and everyone's happy, everyone's together watching this movie. It just makes you feel really good on the inside.
It's a good
heartwarming
Christmas movie, don't you think, guys? You know, it's what it is. When you say it in 3 words, it's great as chaotic. It's that feel good, funny movie.
Yeah.
Feel good movie. It's a classic reiteration of those. You just feel good. At the end of
Yeah.
it, you kind of sort of walk away not heartbroken. Thank you very much, Infinity War and Endgame. And you don't feel like you need to do anything more or less than what you've already done. You've just sat down, watched a movie, and you can get back on with life.
And even the ending, when they're all when the camera starts panning, everyone's singing. It's a good ending. Nothing like harsh happened. Everyone's together again. It just
Infinity War.
Yeah, that scene's clever because it breaks away to say, this ain't a serious film. We're not saying this is a real film. It's kind of saying, this is Mr. Bean. This is a fictional life of Mr. Bean. Which and that's what it's meant to be celebrated. And that, for me, actually, like after even reviewing this, like I'll bump my 6 to a 7 out of 10 because again, like I highly like I said, just watch it with people. I think that is the main thing. Yeah,
and as time goes on for this movie, obviously it's more and more like a kids movie because comedy is evolving, and we'd like to see, maybe for me, I'd like to see another Bean movie, like I said at the start, where maybe he does swear, maybe he does talk in scenes, maybe he's a lot more comical. I think obviously that would impact the character of Mr. Bean, but I think with the way the comedy's evolving, I think it would be kind of like a culture shock. It would be like, whoa, Mr. Bean just said a swear word.
Unless they if they did a parody version, there's not to say they can do one. Like, for example, like Scary Movie takes the piss out of every horror movie. Like I know that's like completely 2 different genres, but I think for me that might just like I can't, you can't see that, and because Mr. Bean's character is solely on that kind of international physical comedy.
Yeah, and
anyone watching that film, and anyone watching that film, no matter if you're, don't know, if you come from China. I don't know why China came to.
We all know why China came to your mind.
In light of recent events, I think it's the first country in his mind at the moment.
Yep.
But like it doesn't matter where you come from, you would just find it funny, and you don't need to understand the language.
No, the thing is, there's that language barrier. There's about 3 or 4 different languages within the film itself, but you can just, the best bit about it is just sit down and enjoy what's in front of you, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
you don't have to worry too much about anything. Just sit there, enjoy the movie for what it is, and just, move on, really.
Exactly. So your overall rating was 7 out of 10. What is yours, Abs?
Oh, that's a hard question. This movie is a very special movie to me simply because it just gets my spirits up. I'm giving it an 8.
Ooh.
I'll give it an 8.
Solid.
Just because. Solid 8.
Solid
just
big
because...
one. Solid big one.
Yeah. Yep, that's what she said.
She
told you solid big one.
Anyway, my rating was I think I'd sit somewhere between you two. I'd say 7.5 for me, Whoa, 7.5. I put a 0.5 in there. It's not quite a 7 for me because that makes me feel like it lost a lot there, but no. And it's not quite an 8 either. So yeah, 7.5 just makes sense for me.
Alright.
Alright.
I guess you have to find like an average. 7.7. I think that's like the average is like 7.6 or 7.7.
The IMDb for it is actually quite low.
I saw the rating and I disagreed with it.
I disagree with it as well. I think that's quite harsh for it. But like the problem is, this is why mine is just about it's not just about a 7, but like again, it's the story that it was a bit forced. If they didn't force those moments, then it would have been bumped up. Like, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
But I think that concludes for today. Thank you very much to everyone who's listened, and thank you very much, Abs and Pranav, man. Like, it's been a pleasure
Thank
talking
you.
to you
Thank you
guys.
for having us on. It's been great.
Yeah, man. So so next week we will be looking at The Dictator. That was selected by Pranav.
Yes,
Pretty much.
Yours
In
truly.
his top 3 films. That'd be exciting to review. So be sure to check out the latest podcasts. So you can find them now. They're now available on Spotify and iTunes. The links will be down in the description. You can follow it. Just type in the AM Filmmaking Podcast. Like I said, thank you very much to Pranav and Abs. Have you got any calls to action and such?
I think it was really nice to do this, and I'm definitely hyped and psyched up to do more because it's definitely fun doing this. The sort of hours go by, and the best bit about it is you can have a laugh, and it's been great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, we'll continue to bring you some great content, and good job to Adam for setting all this up. It's a great idea.
That's it.
Yeah.
Masterminding the whole thing, bro.
Mastermind.
Evil genius.
We should play that game.
You've got a
we
head like
should.
Mastermind, mate.
Oh wow. Okay, whatever. Right.
Put it
You can also Jesus. You can also find my YouTube channel. That'll keep you up to date. So if you don't have Spotify or SoundCloud or anything like that, you can watch all them on YouTube or listen to them as such. But be sure to give us a follow, give us a like, give us a subscription. That'd be great. So I'll see you guys next Thursday, where I'll be with my cousin, talking about Luke Skywalker and some of his character traits. So if you are interested, be sure to tune in next Thursday at 5 p.m. All right. Take it easy, guys, and see you next week.
Bye.
Cheers.